Welcome to Fireside Giants. My name is Alex and my co-host Anthony Rivardo. Today we're talking Daniel Jones, giving some updates on his status, what the MRIs really said about his right hamstring pull that he suffered against the Cincinnati Bengals on Sunday afternoon. Really, really bad news that he got injured anyway, and they had to finish the game with Colt McCoy. Obviously not an ideal scenario, but McCoy got the job done for the most part. I think they got 3 points with him in the game, managed to just scrape out a win 19 to 17, and the defense really stepped up in a big way. But before we dive into Daniel Jones, what we expect from him and what we should expect against Seattle in Week 13, my friend, how are you doing on Victory Monday?
I'm doing great because it is a Victory Monday. That was a huge win for the Giants. Our first 3-game win streak since 2016. We are now first place in the division, and I can't be happier about that. I am thrilled. It is disappointing, though, that in such a great win, we suffered a bit of a loss with Daniel Jones getting injured, but according to conflicting reports, it seems like he should be okay to return before season's end, hopefully. And, he was playing pretty good yesterday, too, so I really hope that's true.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, there are conflicting reports. Jordan Ronan said that it's a little bit more serious than people think. And then, Ian Rappaport came out and said that there's an outside chance he plays Sunday, but it's not as bad as people think. And he actually could return against the Cardinals in Week 14. So, I mean, best case scenario, hamstring injuries can be problematic, especially with a quarterback who is expected to run. That's a big part of his game. If he gets 403 rushing yards this year so far, let me double check that. 403 rushing yards and a touchdown. So he's blown his 2019 stats in that category out of the water. In just 10 extra rushes, he's pretty much gained an extra 124 yards, which is pretty impressive. He's also cut his fumbles down from 18 to 7. That's 2.5 games because I'm factoring Cincinnati game as basically a half a game he played. He basically played 2.5 games without turning the ball over. Evan Ingram almost screwed him on that one that almost looked like it was an interception. It ended up being a fumble. But for the most part, Daniel Jones, like you mentioned, has been improving. Looks really, really good the past couple of weeks. They're Giants on a 3-game winning streak. And now they play against Seattle, right? And Seattle's a team that we don't expect the Giants to beat. We didn't expect them to win even with Daniel Jones playing in this game. And the reason is, you have Russell Wilson, MVP candidate. The guy's, one of the best quarterbacks in the game, year in, year out. Future Hall of Famer. You can't stop Russell Wilson even with a great defense. He's very good at manipulating safeties and getting deep shots downfield to guys like DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. Fantastic deep ball. And the thing about the Seattle Seahawks is their defense actually matches up pretty poorly with the Giants. They have one of the best run-stopping defenses in the NFL. And their passing defense is one of the worst, arguably the worst. Even worse than Dallas, which is hard to believe. And then you have the Giants, who are not really that great in the passing game. Even Daniel Jones wasn't amazing in the passing game. He was, just scraping by with the Wayne Gallman rushing touchdowns, but he was moving the ball really well, just not getting the touchdowns in the red zone. So I think this game is really, really matches up well for Seattle because the Giants' run game has been stellar, and they have a very, very good run defense, and their passing defense is bad. And then we have Colt McCoy, who we don't really trust to throw the ball. So I think, for all intents and purposes, this is going to be a loss for the Giants, and it's really one that we can afford to lose, in my opinion.
You don't trust Colt McCoy? You don't feel confident trotting out there with Colt McCoy, quarterback? I'm just kidding. Yeah, of course, no one does.
2011 McCoy, maybe.
No, not even that. No, never comfortable with Colt McCoy, And it's very unfortunate because Daniel Jones was really playing well, like I mentioned last week, and he has been playing well for the past few weeks. And really, he's had a pretty good season, in my opinion, and Pro Football Focus would actually agree. They've graded him quite, favorably this year. I'm a big fan of what Daniel Jones has done this year. I think that, while we didn't expect to win this game against Seattle, I think that we could have been close in this game against Seattle with Daniel Jones in the lineup. I think that, he could definitely take advantage of an abysmal Seahawks secondary. They have been really, really bad this year. And I think Daniel Jones would have had the opportunity to take some nice shots downfield and make some nice plays. Unfortunately, we won't be able to see that happen most likely, but Ian Rappaport says there's a chance he plays on Sunday. There is a chance that he toughens it out and he plays through this hamstring injury. We are heading into the toughest part of our schedule, and we are racing to make the playoffs. We are racing with the rest of our division. So I wouldn't put it past Daniel Jones to just go out there and play anyway. But if he's going to be playing at a decreased level because of the injury, then he shouldn't play. But if he thinks that he can play, and he can play at a somewhat high level, a better level than Colt McCoy can play, then I want to see him out there. I want to get the best guys on the field. Because, yeah, while I don't expect to win, I expect to fight, and I expect to
Right.
maybe have a chance of pulling out an upset. You never know. And if we can pull out an upset, if Daniel Jones can pull that off, we can really build a ton of momentum heading into that final stretch. I think we have a pretty solid amount of momentum. I think we lost a bit with Daniel Jones being injured, but if he doesn't play this week, though, then yeah, just rest him up. Don't even have him practice this week. See where his mobility is at later in the week, but really don't have him practice and just get him ready for Arizona, because that is a game that is kind of winnable. Arizona just lost to the Patriots, and they're only one win better than we are. And Arizona's lost a couple of games this year that they really should have won. So I wouldn't put it past them to kind of fumble the bag and choke that one out against the Giants. The Giants have a really good defense, and they could surprise against Arizona, I believe. So I definitely think we need to see him out there for the Arizona game. Don't necessarily need him out there for Seattle, but if he can get out there, then I would like to see him out there for sure.
I agreed. And the defense really, I want to touch on for a second, has gotten better every single week. They are just blowing minds with the way they've been playing. Patrick Graham, Jerome Henderson, some of these coaches have done a phenomenal job with these defensive units. And just to give you an idea of how well they actually are, the Giants previously ranked 6th against the run. Now they're 5th against the run after this week. They're 10th in points allowed per game. They were previously 12th. And now they're 19th in passing defense, and they were previously 27th 2 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, 27th to 19th. So that unit, and specifically Isaac Yiadom, cornerback too, he let up a touchdown. I think he was 4 receptions for 29 yards. But if you take away that pass interference to Darnay Holmes, he really only allowed 3 receptions and 28 yards, which is pretty phenomenal. And especially since he was really a question mark. That position is a question mark for the entire season. But Yiadom has stepped up and played very, very well, aside for a few plays here and there. But I've been impressed. This secondary is getting better with getting Xavier McKinney back. He only played 3 defensive snaps, got 1 tackle. He played mostly on special teams. But for the most part, very excited where this defense is going. They're getting better and better, and you have to keep those pieces that are hitting free agency this upcoming offseason. Dalvin Tomlinson, Dexter Lawrence, Logan Ryan. If they could find a way to keep all 3 of those guys, that would be ideal. It might mean, letting cutting guys like Nate Solder and Kevin Zeitler to save cap space, but the cap is fluid. You have to remember the cap is fluid. It's going to go down this next season, and then it's going to go up. So they'll have to backload a couple contracts to year 2, but it's something that they have to do if they want to compete. But for the most part, really love how the Giants defense has been performing. And as for Daniel Jones, this is what Ian Rappaport stated about Jones, and I believe him more than I do Jordan Ronan. No offense to Jordan, but I think Rappaport has a very, very good history, and he really is unbiased because he works for the NFL. He's not trying to make money off of this per se. So what I will say is, he stated, Daniel Jones underwent tests on his hamstring today, and sources say he did avoid major injury. He has an outside chance of playing Sunday against Seattle, though they'll know more if he's able to get on the field and test it in a few days. The Giants will have plans with Jones and without him. So the fact that the Giants are going to be game planning with Jones, it tells you that they have a glimpse of hope that he might be able to play next week. I highly doubt that. I actually would recommend him not playing, because this is a game you don't want to re-injure your quarterback when you're going into the latter portion of the season, when some of these teams, like you mentioned, the Cardinals, the Browns, the Browns are a very beatable team in my opinion, and then Baltimore, who's struggling with injuries and COVID, and then Dallas. You don't want to put Daniel Jones in a position where he can't play against these teams. I think that the Seahawks might be the most challenging of all 4 of the winning teams that are about to face off against. So I think rest Daniel Jones this week, let McCoy go out there, run the offense, put Wayne Gallman in position to get a lot of reps, and just, continue the running game. Just really use this to get some of those guys reps on defense too, like Carter Coughlin, Cam Brown, ease them into the defense against a quality matchup, quality offense, and really help your team, and use this as a stepping stone to move forward and actually grow from this. But for the most part, Daniel Jones, I don't expect him to be playing this week. And, I would even say week 14 is in question depending on how he looks during practice. But again, he's a running quarterback now. His primary skill set revolves around running the football, play action, baiting opposing defenses, making them spy on him so they can take somebody out of coverage. This is all the things that they're trying to do with Daniel Jones and the system they're building around him to really maximize his strengths. And I think, for the most part, Anthony, I don't know if you agree that they should not be playing him this week no matter what.
I disagree. I think that if he's healthy enough to do it, they should put him out there. You got to get the best guys on the field when you're making this playoff hunt, or this push to get into the playoffs. You have to win as many games as possible, and if he gives you the best chance to win, and he is healthy enough to go out there and play, he should play, in my opinion. And I'll throw out some stats that to back that up. When throwing deep 20-plus yard passes outside the right hash, he is a 99.9 grade from Pro Football Focus. He is 8 for 10 for 301 yards, 1 touchdown, and 152.1 NFL passer rating. That's nuts. A
It's
99.9
pretty great.
PFF passer grade when throwing deep to the right side. That is really, really impressive, and that's something that you're not going to get when Colt McCoy is on the field. That accuracy downfield
True.
is key, especially when playing against a team like Seattle, who has been letting up a lot of big, deep passing plays. You want the guy out there who can make those big, deep passing plays happen, and Daniel Jones is a guy who can make it happen, and I want to see him out there if he's healthy enough to play. And then even between the numbers, 20-plus yards, 4 for 6, 100 yards, 3 touchdowns, 97.6 PFF grade. To the left side, and it's actually interesting because to the left side, he has struggled throwing in every level of the passing game, but still he's been solid deep passing left side, 4 for 11, 134 yards, 1 touchdown, with a 76.8 passing grade, and that's 4 for 11, but I can name at least 1 or 2 drops off the top of my head that were to the left side, 1 to Shepard, 1 to Slayton this week, and 1 to Engram against Philadelphia. So there's 3 right there, so that would be 7 for 11, with a whole lot more yards and probably a couple more touchdowns. So throwing the ball deep, Daniel Jones has been phenomenal this season. That was a question that a lot of people had about Daniel Jones heading into the draft, really, heading into his first year, and then even going to year 2. They still questioned whether or not he could be a playmaker throwing the ball deep. He's totally proven that he is a playmaker throwing the ball deep. And like I said, against Seattle, that is a really terrible secondary. I want our guy out there if he can be out there. That's just my opinion. I understand a lot of people, they don't want to risk re-injury. Well, I'll say this much: the offensive line had the best game of the season this past week. So if they can continue to play at that level, and we can keep Jones clean, and we can get the ball out of his hands quickly, and not ask him to do too much, simplify the game plan for him maybe against a weak defense, I think that you can keep him clean, you can keep him out of harm's way, and I think that he gives you the best chance of winning. So for me, if he's healthy enough to do it, put him out there. If not, then rest him and get him ready for the Cardinals, because that is a kind of a tougher defense. They have a pretty nice pass rush. Isaiah Simmons is starting to play better too. They've got a great safety in Budda Baker, pretty good secondary there. So then you really need Daniel Jones out there. But I'm just saying, I would like to take advantage of a weak Seattle defense with our quarterback, and maybe pull out an upset if possible. I know, we have a good defense too, so maybe we can slow down that Seattle hype train offense just a little bit, maybe sneak out a surprise victory. You never know, but I just don't think that's possible with Colt McCoy in the lineup. So if Jones can be out there, put him out there. Let's see what he can do. If not, then okay, we'll look forward to the Cardinals game, and I definitely expect him to be out there for that one because he's a tough guy, and I don't expect him to sit on the sideline for long.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it really comes down to defense, though. Either way, against Seattle, the Giants aren't going to put up a monstrous amount of points. They very, very seldom do. For the most part, I think it comes down to overwhelming that Seattle offensive line, which isn't the best in the world. But when it comes down to it, you're expecting Isaac Yiadom to match up against Tyler Lockett, and that's going to be one of the biggest mismatches you could possibly get. They're going to try and push the ball downfield, and they have to be very careful on how they allow the guys like DK Metcalf, Lockett to push the field, and some of the best route running wide receivers in the game have both been phenomenal this year. So the Giants are going to have their hands full on defense. Offensively, they're going to have to keep up, and I agree with you on that point. You want your best players out there, but at the same time, we couldn't even see Jones, push off even put any weight on his right leg. He couldn't push off of it. I don't think he could get the ball downfield. He did, but it was a very short throw. Like I don't trust that he's gonna feel comfortable putting all his weight on his right leg. So I don't think pushing the ball downfield is gonna be that successful.
Take 2 aspirin a day, rest it, ice it, put it, raise it, elevate it, whatever
I'll give him my hamstring if he wants it.
Yeah, I'll take my hamstring out and hand it to him, whatever, man. It's a full week that he has to really recover, so you never know. Maybe he will be better by Sunday, or at least he'll be feeling better enough to where he's able to go out there and play. I know there is concern, though, whether or not he'd be able to drive the ball downfield with, basically on one leg. But like I said, man, if he's healthy enough, if he's feeling up to it, then I think we should do it. I would kind of be upset if this coaching staff held him out of this game in order to get him prepared for later games. I think, they preach that week by week basis thing. They're very serious about that by only focusing on 1 week at a time. And if they were to hold him out just to save him for down the road, that would kind of be contradictory to the philosophy that they've preached all season long. So I think that if he is healthy, then they will have him play based on the philosophy that they've gone by, taking everything week by week.
Yeah, that's reasonable. And the last thing I'll say about Daniel Jones for this episode is, I've been injured before. I've had the, soft tissue injuries like this, and it doesn't only take a week. Even with the best medical training, medical staff, and football you could have, these injuries can last a while. Look at Austin Eckler. He missed the entire year, basically, up until now, 10, 11 weeks. And his was pretty severe. It was different, so I understand how severe. But we're talking about a hamstring pull, which is hard to come back from a guy who runs a lot, moves out of the pocket a lot, is expected to do those things, part of their system and their scheme. We saw freaking Colt McCoy with a quarterback sweep the other day. That's these are the type of things that the offense is built to do and utilize. So I think they should be as safe as possible with Daniel Jones. Don't rest him if he doesn't need it for this game, but I do think it's going to be a 1 to 2 week injury that he will probably, best case scenario, return against Arizona.
That's fair. You definitely don't want to risk re-injury, and it's probably not going to be ready to go by Sunday. But, if he's feeling up to it and he's ready to push through, then I fully support that, and I want him to do it. A lot of people are going to disagree. You pretty much do disagree as well. A lot of people are going to want him to hold out of this game, but the way that I see it, man, you only have so many games left in the season. We're 4-7. We're on the upswing. You got to get this guy out there if he's able to get out there. That's just my opinion. Like I said, I think Jones has been really great this season. He gives us the best chance to win, so hopefully he can get out there. If not, then I look forward to seeing him whoop up on the Arizona Cardinals the following week.
That totally reasonable. And guys, whatever you guys think below, drop in the comment section if you think he should play this week, if he shouldn't play this week, if you're worried what you think about Colt McCoy. Want to hear your opinions. As always, love to engage. Thank you again for tuning into Fireside Giants on this little Daniel Jones update. We'll have more stuff out this week, including a breakdown of the offensive line with Matt G, our offensive line specialist, and we'll be doing another one potentially of Logan Ryan, watching how he shades into coverage and really baits quarterbacks into making some of these throws, and really looking at him and what he's doing in the defensive secondary, because he's a guy that I don't really recognize much during the game. I don't see what he's doing all the time. It seems like he's been giving a lot of free roaming ability to make plays and bait quarterbacks the way he loves to do as a safety now. This transition has been great for him, so I really am interested to see what he's doing on the field, and I'm excited to get that in front of you guys so you can see it as well. But thank you as always, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.